Okay, I have the chat ready to go, and I think I am in business. All right. Hi, Julia. You're nice and early today. I'm glad to see that you made it safely back from the airport. Hopefully you survived this week, right? With all those littles. Okay, so I hope everyone is doing great on this Monday morning or Monday afternoon, I guess. Hey, Nicole. Yeah, we're doing good. And we had a great week last week. So I wanted to talk about this subject. More is caught than taught, because as many of you know, I was at camp last week. And every year at camp, I sit back and observe. Hey, Sarah. This year, we were at a Baptist camp that had over 250 people. I think it's going to be one of the largest camps of the year for this particular camp. It was full, exciting, and so tiring. I love the way that this camp runs things because each church sends their own counselors, which most of the time it happens to be the parents of some or a lot of the children. The counselor sits with their kids in the services. They help pray with them when they make decisions. We're able to lead kids in our group to the Lord, and we also bunk with them. Because of this, you're always in close proximity with your kids and every other kid in the camp as well. You're able to observe all of the different dynamics in play. It's so interesting to me seeing all of the different households in one place. You can spot the kids who aren't used to schedules. Usually these are the ones lagging behind everyone, or the ones who don't know how to transition from one activity to another activity smoothly. You can tell the ones who aren't used to getting up early, the ones who aren't used to challenges, the ones who aren't used to being told what to do, the ones who are respectful and kind, the ones who respect authority. Every year I see the good, the bad, and the ugly. I get to observe lots of different things. Being that most of the kids are from Christian homes, there is a common bond that ties us all together. Most of the kids sit intently through the services and they respond well to the preaching. I have noticed that they're very good at calming down once the services start. They're very good at singing out when they're in the song services. Besides this bond, though, it's so fun seeing all the different temperaments and personalities come together at camp. Being that the camp I went to was for 6 to 12-year-olds, there was a huge variety of personalities and emotions. And one thing about kids, they are honest to a fault, which is why I happen to love them so much, honestly. If only adults would be as honest and open as kids, it would avoid a lot of conflicts and heartache. But anyways, this week it really hit me that because each home is so uniquely different, and that's a good thing, by the way, that so much of raising kids and so much of how kids turn out is your testimony at home. The way you react to different situations, the way you respond to life, the work ethic that you instill in your kids, the joy that you produce in your home. So I wanted to get into this topic of more is caught than taught. And every year I'm at camp, I come back and it just inspires another show. Not necessarily based off of bad that I see, but based off of good that I see going on in the camp, and just based off of observing 200 some kids in close proximity to each other. So it just gives me a lot of ideas. I think last year I did a show called Teach Your Kids to Do the Hard Things or something after being at camp. So hey, Amanda, and hey, Ashley. So glad you guys could join us. And if you notice, I am wearing one of my shirts this week. That is one of my favorite shirts. It says perfectly imperfect. And that's kind of how I view my life. It is perfectly imperfect. I am not perfect by any means of the imagination. I am a work in progress, but I do want to go over some principles that I think you can help your kids when it comes to this issue of just more is caught than taught. So how do we teach our kids with our actions versus our words? And throughout this whole thing, I just want everyone to remember that actions speak louder than words. No, that is not Bible. But I do believe that what is in the heart comes out through our actions at home and throughout our life. So this action speaks louder than words can definitely come out through our temper If we have a temper, if we have anger issues, it's going to come out in our actions. We can try to train our kids all day long about keeping our temper in check, but if we're constantly blowing up and we have a short fuse, that's going to come across a lot more clear than just our words do. This also tends to be shown in patience versus impatience. We can give as many life lessons as we want about being patient, but if we are constantly impatient to our kids, if we are constantly fretting and worrying, and why isn't God doing what I want him to do right now? And our kids see that, that's going to send a clearer message than us just quoting verses about patience or, giving life lessons. Also, when it comes to how we treat other people and kindness, our kids are going to see that more than anything. We can talk or give life lessons all the time about kindness, but if they don't see us exhibiting kindness, then that's going to come across a lot louder than those words. The first main thing I wanted to go over, though, is work ethic. And believe it or not, even though summer camp is fun, there are some things that come through with the work ethic part of it. The camp specifically that I go to is very active based. Like there's lots of activities, there's lots of team games. Everyone is assigned a game or assigned a team when they show up, and then they work towards points the entire week. And so there is a lot of teaching of how to work together in unity, team building exercises, different things like that. And I think it's important for kids because, even though most kids do like games, kids do activity, the further we get into my adult years, the more I'm seeing with the advancement of technology that this issue of physical activity is becoming less and less. And that's really a shame because basically from the time I woke up in the summer to the time I went to bed when I was a kid, I was out on my bike. I was riding around the town. I know you have to be a lot more careful nowadays. I think things are a little bit more innocent back then, and crime was very low in the small rural town that I lived in. I remember one instance where a girl named Melissa, I think, so my childhood was in the 80s. I was born in 81. So the majority that I remember was late 80s, early 90s of when I was growing up. And I remember maybe late 70s or early 70s, a girl had been kidnapped and murdered, and it was huge. Like it shook the town. It made headlines. That was literally the last time I had heard of anything like that happening. So that was always in the back of my head as a kid. We were taught, don't talk to strangers, stranger danger, all that stuff. If someone approaches you, you leave. So I know you have to be a lot more careful now. But I was outside pretty much from the time I woke up to the time I went to bed. And screen time was very rare for me and my siblings. So we had to come up with things to do because my mom didn't want us in the house all the time. There wasn't really much to do in the house anyways. We'd rather be outside. So we were climbing trees, we were riding our bikes, we were making mud pies, we were turning an old shed into a fort. We were making leaf piles, and we were just running around having fun. And so I do see a decline in that with kids. And I think that that is a shame when it comes to it. So, hey, Joyce, I'm glad you're catching live. Hey, Melissa. So, for you personally, how much time is spent on your phone? Are you instilling a good work ethic in your kids around the house? Do they see you cleaning your home? Do they see just a messy home and you just sitting on your phone all day long? I think that's so important as moms that we demonstrate a hard work ethic towards our kids and that they grow up seeing our example. So let them see you do the hard things. I know for my kids, they're not surprised when they see me trying to fix things around the house or just taking matters into my own hands when it comes to little projects, because my husband's a busy man. And I firmly believe that us women are fully capable of doing the little projects around the house. So I watch a lot of YouTube videos. I've actually fixed my dishwasher before. I fixed my regular washer before when there's been clogs and stuff, just by watching videos and figuring it out. I have replaced dryer hoses on my dryer. I have cleaned out the lint in my dryer. I have cleaned up the, as far as like the ashes and just little things like that around the fireplace. And I actually need to we need to clean out the chimney this year. So I need to, I've been tempted to like buy one of those chimney sweep things and do it myself. But if it comes down to it, I figure out how to do it. I installed locks on our doors when Hannah started escaping. I did chain locks. I figured out how to do. I do the hard chores with the chickens. I muck out their chicken coop and drag, the wood chips to the burn pile. And my kids are right there with me seeing all the stuff that I'm doing. I paint the house, any repairs that need to be done around the house, I try to do myself, unless it's a major repair, then I have to have my husband do it. But give your kids chores and expect them to work alongside of you. Even a little 2-year-old, Hannah's age, when you're in the kitchen, you can give her something to do. You can give her a dish and have her dry it off. You can give her the broom and tell her to start sweeping. You can have her pick up plates and bring them to you at the sink. You can start so early. From the time they're walking around, toddling around, they can help you do chores. And then it just becomes, routine. You can give them a rag and have them help you. My kids love to spray. Hannah and Kelly love to spray down the walls and wipe it with rags. And that's fine. You could give them a little spray bottle filled with a little bit of vinegar and essential oils. And then your house is smelling good and the walls are being sprayed down and it keeps them busy and keeps them from killing themselves. It's a great way to clean with them right next to you. For me, the oldest girl at home is kind of the one that takes a lot of responsibility. And I know as soon as if the oldest is gone, the next one in line will come and I'll kind of expect more of them. So in this way, I have 6 girls in a row. I'm very confident that by the time they are old enough to be married and they leave the home, that they will be very good at cooking. They will be very good at cleaning. They will be very good at time management. And Abby right now could run an entire household. She is my right-hand woman. She does pretty much everything. I am so busy and I have a lot on my plate. And the only reason that I'm able to be that busy is because I have help at home. If I didn't have any help, then I would be cooking all the time. I would be cleaning all the time. I would be doing laundry all the time. Well, a lot of those chores the kids do. So they've taken a lot on my plate. Just the older they get, the easier it gets as far as running my household. And I firmly believe in delegating tasks because I cannot do everything that is required with all the people in my home. So I have learned to delegate tasks to different girls, different kids. I think the chicken chores have been awesome for Allie and Lana because as you notice, as you start having more and more and more kids, as the older ones take on more responsibility, you don't expect as much from your younger ones. And I've noticed that as I get older. So I like it when I have something that even the younger ones can do. And so the chicken chores, Abby and Chloe do none of those. Only Allie and Lana pretty much do it. Such because they are the ones that primarily do the chicken chores. They have an attachment to those chickens. In fact, when the stupid fox came and went on his killing spree, or her killing spree, I think it was a mama with a kid. When she went on her killing spree, both the girls were running alongside of me in the yard as we were discovering more dead chicken bodies, and they were bawling. And I felt so bad for them because they were attached to those chickens. They had named them. They had taken care of them every day. They petted them. They carried them. They were like their little pets. And then the stupid fox came and killed 8 all at one time, killed one of the ducks. It was very sad. Since then, they have been pretty much penned up in a location. I still have a little chicken run where they're able to get out every day, but I keep my iPad out there playing, actually playing like some of my husband's sermons. I've downloaded stuff and playing some of his different discussions and things he's had because I want the voice going, so it'll scare the fox away. So, but it was really sad just seeing all the love and dedication that they had towards those chickens because they had invested the time into them. And so it gave them a sense of ownership and a sense of responsibility when it came to them. And I think that's good for kids. And it teaches them important lessons. It teaches them how to be responsible. And then it also teaches them that sometimes in life you do have loss, and it is sad. And it's hard to grow up and realize that, but I think it's good for them. Teach your kids to look for a need to fill and do it. If something needs to be done around church, have them do it, even if they didn't make the mess. And my younger kids are still a work in progress with this. But Nicole and I just got it yesterday from the kids, but I didn't make the mess. And it's like, so what? You can help clean it up. So definitely model downtime. So show them that it's good to think of their needs, but show them how you put in a long day's work to get there. I am a firm believer in it's okay to have some video games. It's okay to watch a TV show or something, but after you've accomplished something. I don't like it when my kids start doing that right off the bat as soon as they roll out of bed. I don't like that. I personally think they need to do chores first, get themselves dressed, get themselves presentable, read their Bible, eat, do their chores before they sit down and they have that time. So I try to model that for them too. Hey, Kaylin, and hey, Beth. If you find yourself spending way too much time on your phone, Melissa, there are different apps that can help with that. First of all, you can set a goal for yourself. If there's a little thing on your settings that shows you how many hours or how many minutes you spend on your phone, how many hours you spend on your apps, different things like that. Try to whittle down that time. Set a goal for yourself. Say, I'm only going to spend 3 hours this week, 3 hours a day on my phone. And that may seem like so much, but you would be shocked if you went right now and you looked at how much time you spend on your phone, because that includes everything. It includes text messaging. It includes YouTube videos. So like for me, every morning when I get ready, that's usually I have a crime show playing or something on YouTube. So if I spend 30 minutes getting ready, it's going to have that 30 minutes of my screen time. If I'm texting, if I'm on the phone, whatever you do on your phone, anytime you go on it, it's keeping track of how much time. So let's say that you want to just spend 3 hours. Well, that's going to whittle away a lot of time, especially if you spend 30 minutes, 45 minutes watching a crime show. So that goes a lot faster than you think. You can also, and this is something I've done during the summer months, disable or delete your apps so that you can only look at them on the computer. So you give yourself a time limit. Let's say I'm going to work the whole day. I'm deleting Facebook from my phone. I'm deleting Instagram from my phone. I'm going to work hard the whole day. And then at night, I'm going to grab a cup of tea and I'm going to sit down on the computer and I'm going to give myself 30 minutes to look through both. That way you're limited. You can answer all your emails during that time. You can respond to comments or leave comments or whatever, like posts, whatever. But that has definitely helped me manage my time as well when I find that I'm spending too much time on my phone. So that's something that you can definitely do. Hey, Shara. And then how do we model our walk with the Lord? Because more is definitely caught than taught, especially in this area. Kids are going to mimic what they see you do and how they see you react to the things of the Lord, spending time with the Lord. And I definitely think one of these things is Bible time. Do your kids see you reading the Bible? Do they see you? Now, we don't really do like a daily where we get together in the summer, especially. During the school year, I might have everyone read their Bibles at the same time before school starts. But in the summer months, things are a little bit more crazy with our schedules as far as some people are gone at these camps, some people are here. Like my kids are going to Ireland next week. 3 of my kids are. And then when they come back, we're going to have family camp. And then they're going to teen camp. And so things are just really crazy in the summer with all the schedules. But do they see you reading your Bible? Is there a time where they know, okay, mom drinks her coffee in the morning and gets her Bible out and reads it? I love my 1-year Bible that has all of the sections broken up for each day of the year. That's really cool because then I know exactly where I'm at on June 12th or whatever. And I turn there and it's there. And today it was talking about, if you observe to do all of these things, then will I be with you and then will I bless you. And those were just really neat passages to read, knowing that it's a promise from God that if you observe his commandments, he's going to bless you. He's going to be with you, So what about exhibiting Christian qualities? When I say Christian qualities, what comes to mind is fruits of the Spirit, gentleness, goodness, faith, peace, all those things. Are you exhibiting those in your home? Because that's what your kids are going to catch more than anything. And then with that, though, with exhibiting those Christian qualities, if you're going to exhibit them, you're going to need to be walking in the Spirit versus walking in the flesh, and teach your kids the difference. There's this really horrible teaching that goes around in many circles, including some Baptist circles, where proof of your salvation is these, qualities of walking in the Spirit. Well, that's not proof of your salvation. The proof of our salvation lies in the blood of Christ. And if we put our faith and trust in the blood of Christ alone, that's the proof of our salvation. However, I think proof of walking in the Spirit and dying to self daily is these fruits of the Spirit. All the love, gentleness, goodness, joy, peace, all those things. That's going to be a result of walking in the Spirit. So teach your kids that. I don't ever want my kids growing up doubting their salvation every day, especially if they're struggling. Let's say they're struggling with their temper. And if they have this teaching in their head, oh my goodness, I'm not exhibiting, peace because I'm constantly blowing up. Am I not saved? It's not that you're not saved, it's that you're not walking in the Spirit. There's a difference. And I think if we could get that through our kids' head, it would help alleviate a lot of the doubting and let them have joy in their salvation and not just constantly be doubting. So teach your kids the difference between walking in the Spirit and walking in the flesh. And talk about it. Like, okay, you just blew up. Now that's an example of you gave into your flesh during that. You weren't yielded to the Holy Spirit. You weren't yielded to the Lord, because if you were, you would have thought before you burst. You would have thought before you ran your mouth. You would have thought before you hit your sister. So really emphasize those things to your kids as you walk through life. And then do you talk about the things of the Lord in your home? Just what I was saying, you have to talk about it. Talk about the difference between walking in the Spirit, walking in the flesh. And then good, godly music. We have Alexa in our house. I know we're probably being spied on by the Russians, whatever, China, US, whatever. They know everything about me anyways. So Alexa, a lot of times when we're in the kitchen, it's right there in the kitchen. We'll say, Alexa, turn on music from Heartland Baptist Bible College. Alexa, turn on music from Hiles Anderson College. And all these good groups will come up with really good godly music. And I want that playing throughout my home. I want my kids getting a taste for that type of music and not a taste for the worldly music. So I like to have that playing in my home on a daily basis. And then a lot of this attitude, or a lot of what is caught more than taught, is how your attitude is towards church in your life. Your attitudes towards church is definitely caught. And when I say your attitudes towards church, I mean the way you love the people of God or the way you hate the people of God is caught. The way you accept people and their flaws is caught. You exhibit everything to your children. They pick up on everything. The respect that you have for your pastor is caught. In fact, a lot of times, when you're in church ministry, it's just kind of the ebb and flow of church life. Is you're going to have a cycle of people that come and a cycle of people that go. And one day everything will be great and you're the best person since sliced bread, and the next day they hate your guts. Well, a lot of the ways that you can pick up on this is if the kids change towards you or not, because kids happen to be very honest creatures and they have a hard time concealing their true feelings for you or concealing what they think about you. And often what's being talked about in the home regarding church, regarding the people in church, regarding the pastor, regarding me, the kids pick up on. And so I've often noticed that when kids start avoiding me, when they won't look at me, when they won't talk to me, when they won't smile at me, if they're very curt and very rude when I'm trying to talk to them, it's usually an indication of what's being talked about at home regarding the pastor and his family. You can really see it come out in the kids. So believe it or not, your kids pick up on that. If you go home, I often hear this illustration. It's going to be hard for your kids to even listen to preaching or listen to what's being taught at church if every Sunday after church you go home and the entire way home you have roast preacher for lunch. You're roasting his sermon, you're roasting him, you're roasting his wife, you're roasting his kids, you're roasting all the people in the church. It's going to be really hard. And then when your kids grow up and let's say they face a very important decision, they're at a crossroads in life, they're 17, 18, 19, and they have to decide, am I going to follow the teachings that I've grown up with hearing from this pastor at this church that my parents roast every week coming home? Or am I going to follow the draw of the world? Am I going to follow the ways of the world. And oftentimes, if you have just instilled this disrespect for everything at church and this disrespect for the preacher and this disrespect for godly people, then they're going to choose the opposite way of that. Because why would they listen when their parents can't even stand, what's going on in the church? So a lot of what you feel towards your church is displayed in your children. Attendance and being there is caught, with our kids. If they have to miss for any reason, and it's funny because Tommy, he's actually fallen asleep and not set an alarm because he thought for sure he would wake up and he's missed church. And when he wakes up and realizes he's missed church, he's completely panics. And it's only happened like once or twice and in his teenage years, but he knows he's in for it too, because you just don't miss church at our house. If the doors are open, you're there at church. And so for our kids, it just doesn't feel right for them if they're sick and they have to miss, there's an actual legitimate reason. They feel so weird, not being in church. They don't like it at all. So your disposition in church is caught and your friendliness towards others is caught. Are you friendly when visitors come? If you start welcoming visitors when they come in and you start talking to visitors, your kids are more likely to be friendly as well when new kids come in, or, when visitors come in. So with your kids, I've found that sometimes you have to kind of push them out of their comfort zone, because everyone has their own little friends at church, right? Everyone has their friends. And with kids, a lot of times they're more insecure than adults, and they're a little bit more shy. So sometimes you kind of have to push them. But being preachers' kids, my kids had to learn early, especially with the church plant. When we started the church plant, it was just our family. So we did all the work when we first started the church. We knocked on hundreds of doors. We passed out hundreds of flyers. My husband visited and visited and visited. And we, everyone that came walking through those doors, we had an investment in. And so my kids learned very early that when they were the only kids, they had to be welcoming to other kids that came. If you want to have friends, you must show yourself friendly. And I've tried to teach them that at a very early age. And I think being church planters' kids, it really helped push them out of their comfort zone and really helped teach them how to make friends very quickly. So I think that was good for them to do that. More in your home is caught than taught as far as your home life goes, as far as joy in the home. As far as, do you fight all the time with your spouse? You need to be the one to model a healthy relationship. A healthy relationship is not screaming and yelling and throwing things and kicking and hitting and punching and being physical. It is not a healthy relationship. A healthy relationship is, yes, having disagreements, but learning how to work through those disagreements in a healthy way, as far as not screaming, not name calling, not nitpicking, having a legitimate concern, getting to the bottom of it and working through it and exhibiting that to your children. Having joy in your kids. Your kids know if you have joy in them or if you are just annoyed by them all the time. They can pick up on that. They sense it. They know. Is your home peaceful, or is it a war zone? Is there constant fighting? Is there constant chaos? Is there constant screaming? It's more as your kids, however they're raised, they're going to start exhibiting those same behaviors. So if they're raised by someone whose go-to is constantly screaming or throwing things, as they grow up, that's what they're going to resort to as they work through conflicts themselves. So it's up to us to show our kids how to peacefully work through conflicts and how to work through them with health and not in a toxic way. Do your kids have any type of routine at all? I noticed it was so funny. I was joking with, and both of us are homeschoolers. Me and this other mom were homeschoolers. We were talking about at camp, you can really tell the homeschool kids versus the Christian school kids. Because the Christian school kids, they were more programmed to do things at a certain time, to wake up by a certain time, to be here, to be there, to be on time, to be in their spot, to be lined up. The homeschoolers, not so much. And my kids a little bit more, we are not as structured as Christian school, but we are more structured than most homeschool families because of my teaching schedule during the school year. Because I start teaching at a certain time on the dot, every single day during, not every school, 3 out of the 5 school days I do that. So I have to have them going in school too before that time comes. So they are used to getting up at roughly the same time every day, getting fed and being in school by 9 every day. So they are on a little bit more of a schedule than most homeschoolers, but it was kind of funny seeing the difference between those two type of kids. So Ron, I'm the same way. If I have coffee, he said, it depends. If I make sure my wife has had coffee, then the house is peaceful. And she just rolled her eyes. But I'm the same way. My kids know. Okay, so the other day, this was so funny. I was sitting on the couch and I was drinking my coffee like I do every morning. And Kelly wanted me to do something. And I was just like, just a minute, Kelly. I'll do. She's very high maintenance. She's very demanding. So she always wants me to do something. But I was just like, just a minute, Kelly. I'll do it in a second. She comes over. She looks in my coffee cup. She sees that it's empty. And she says, Mom, you can do it for me. You're done with your coffee. And she says that because I've trained my girls that you don't bother me when I'm drinking my coffee. And they know this. And so Kelly looked at my cup and she's like, why can't you do this? You're done with your coffee. So she's 4 and she's smart. And that just shows you she's caught on. She's caught on that you don't bother mom while she's doing her coffee, while she's drinking her coffee. So I really think that more is caught than taught when it comes to character. Your kids see your character. And you as a parent, you have to push them. One thing that I really realized this year at camp is that you cannot go the whole year having children that play video games all day long, have no type of structure, have absolutely no work ethic. They just play video games, they have fun. And then you go to a week of camp and it's tough. Okay. So there was this thing at camp that was called Amazing Race. It was really fun, but near the end, I deemed it fat camp for counselors because we were right there. And actually there was like me and this other girl named Cassie, ironically, we are probably the most competitive women counselors there out of the whole camp. And they happened to put us together on the same team. So we were determined to win. And you had 9 different places. Now this camp is huge. It's very spread out. It's huge. I got 15,000 steps a day at this camp because you walk everywhere. And there's 9 different spots and it was all over that you were running and you had to go and do all these different challenges. And so Cassie and we were pushing our kids. We had 23 girls that were doing it and you had to do it as a group. So we had to run to each place because whoever got done first won. And if we walked, our campers walked. If we ran, our campers ran. So we knew we had to be right there with them doing it. And I'm literally, and some of these kids, they were having a hard time. You could tell that they weren't used to running, but our group of girls was really good. They persevered, they pushed through it. But on the way back to win, we did win. Our team did win. We were the first back. On the way back, we're all running and I'm exhausted by this time. Like we've done 9 different things. We've ran to 9 different places. They had to build they had to do beanbag tosses. They had to shoot the paintball gun. They had to make frisbees and this one thing. The hardest part was they had to ride bikes from the top of the hill all the way around the chapel and then back up again. And it was probably about a mile distance. And the ones that we had 5 girls that could not ride bikes at this time. So we had to walk alongside of them. They had to push the bike. So I did that with them. We pushed the bike all the way around chapel, all the way back up. It was really tough. So we were exhausted and we're running. And I look over and I see a kid and he's sitting on the ground. He's probably 11 or 12. He's a boy. And he had crossed his legs and he had put his hands over his eyes and he refused to move. He was done. He would not get up. And there was maybe half a mile left to get to the chapel. It wasn't really that far. I mean, I guess if you're a gamer, if you just play video games all day, it's far. But I think his dad was literally he was picking this big boy up underneath his arms, picking him up and screaming at him, "You're losing the race for us. You're losing the whole thing." And the kid would not do it. He would not. So that really, I think what that really impressed upon me is that you cannot not teach character to your kids the entire year. And then when you go to someplace where character is expected, or you expect character out of your kids to come through, then all of a sudden expect them to have character. No, character is not a once a day thing. It's a life thing. You know, every day in and day out, you're teaching your kids character, whether or not you know it. So if you're allowing your kids to just have fun all day, do video games all day, play around all day, never work, then why would you expect them to push through the hard things when they're at a camp? You know, because that was hard. That was a really, really hard activity. And it took a couple hours to get through the whole thing. It was really tough, even on me. So you have to push your kids to do the hard things. Yeah. And the thing is, Kaylin, she said, I just lost 20 pounds. You would think I would lose weight? No, because they feed you so good. They feed you. I'm not used to eating 3 meals a day. I did stick with my rice porridge. I tried to. Most mornings I ate my rice porridge with fruit. That's all I ate for breakfast, so that I would be hungry for lunch. But yeah, they feed you so good at this camp that you don't even lose weight, which is sad. But yeah, definitely teach your kids to persevere, teach your kids to go through the hard things. One of the girls on our team did amazing. She actually had asthma. I walked right alongside of her because she was having a hard time. She didn't have, we weren't like pushing her to make her die. Okay. She had, we told her, if you at any time feel like you can't breathe, we will stop. You do not have to do anymore. But she's like, I want to finish. I want to finish. So at the end, when we're all running back, it was tough, but she was like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And actually, the other counselor, Cassie, had to help her. Like, they were running together at the end, and she was pretty much had her arms around her shoulder and was like guiding her in. And I told her afterwards, I said, I went up and gave her a pep talk, and I'm like, it was because of you, because everyone in the team had to be back in the chapel before we put the paper up. And now their team, the yellow team, was right behind us. They almost beat us. But I told her, I said, because of you persevering and because of you pushing through, we won. And then at the end of the week, our team actually ended up winning. And it was partly due because of that game, because we got 500,000 points for winning that game. And it was a big pot that we won. So I told her, I'm like, it was because of you. And I think that I saw her whole face change after I told her that. And she was wearing a sense of accomplishment after I told her that. And it really made an impression on her. And I think that's a defining moment that she's going to remember for the rest of her life, that I can do the hard things and I can accomplish the hard things. And that's going to help when she's facing a hard task. Just remembering, I've had success in this. I've accomplished the hard things. I can do this. So the teen camp is July 3rd through whatever, that week. That's when teen camp is. I have 3 girls going. But yeah, the teaching them that sometimes hard work doesn't produce first place, but you know what? We always need to do the best we can at whatever task that we do. There's been failures, but I have never felt, there have been times when I haven't put my best effort in, and I didn't win. And I was like, yeah, I could have done better. But then there have been times when I know that I have done the best I possibly humanly could. And if I didn't win, oh, well, there's always going to be someone better at me in almost everything. There's always going to be a better mom than me. There's always going to be a better pianist than me. There's always going to be a better wife than me. There's always going to be someone better, but it doesn't matter because I only can do the best that I can do. And as long as I work the best and I work with what God has given me, then at the end of the day, I'm happy about that. So, no, Sarah, it's not. She said, is me doing most of my work at nap time and bedtime really doing the kids a disservice? No, because you're still doing work throughout the day. You're still, picking things up, getting them involved in pickup, doing things like that. Sometimes when you have little kids, just to keep your sanity, you just have to do the majority of your work because it is a lot of work teaching them how to work alongside of you. So maybe just set aside a time every day where you do a little chore together. And so they're learning. They're so young. They're learning, alongside with you. I don't think you need to have them alongside with you for every single minute of your work time because that would just get frustrating. Honestly, it's a lot of work when you got little kids. So that would just get frustrating. So I would definitely maybe try to set aside a few minutes each day where they're helping you with some task. But yeah, don't feel bad if you're putting them to bed, and because you do accomplish a whole lot more when they're in bed, for sure. And then character when it comes to language and words of the mouth, what comes out of their mouth. Your kids' language says a lot about your home. If your kids are using profanity every other word, you're probably hearing it at home. They're probably screaming some pretty choice words at them at home. So I can tell a lot about what comes out of a kid's mouth by just in how his parents treat him, how his parents talk to him. The way that you respond to others, more is caught in this area than taught, definitely. Your kids need to see you resolve conflict so that they can learn to resolve conflict. Okay, so Kaylin, go ahead and private message me, and I will tell you about the camp. So go ahead and private message me. This was so funny yesterday. So I have lots of Kelly examples because she's just funny and she's smart. But she came in crying. Nicole and I had noticed this. Her and Juju are like best friends, but they're also mortal enemies at the same time sometimes. So she came crying when we were sitting there eating lunch, and she just said, I am so mad at Juju. And I said, why are you so mad? And she said, because she keeps knocking down my fort, or my tower, I think her tower. She keeps knocking down my tower. And I was like, well, you need to learn to get along. And, we noticed yesterday that her and Juju had a love-hate relationship. So one day they'd be getting along, or 1 minute they'd be getting along, the next they'd be fighting. But I just love, can I reiterate again, I love the honesty of kids. So instead of trying to give Juju the cold shoulder, instead of trying to ignore her, instead of trying to just be passive aggressive, she literally said, I am so mad at Juju. She acknowledged the fact that she was mad. And then by the end of the day, a little bit later, they were playing together fine. So they got over it. If more adults would just recognize the fact that they're mad and approach the person about that and work through it, then resentment would not grow, bitterness would not grow. It would not cause things to explode and reach a head eventually. No, when you have conflict, you resolve it when it's small, because conflict never stays small. Conflict builds and builds and builds and builds and builds. And I'm not stupid. When it comes to people in the church, I can tell if there's some type of root of bitterness there by the way body language is. More is caught than taught when it comes to body language too. By the way attendance starts to slip, people start missing. If there's conflict with someone between them and the church, they start missing church. If there's conflict between them and the pastor, they won't start coming. Well, what's wrong? Nothing. Everything's fine. People just won't acknowledge when there's conflict, and then it can't get resolved. And then it usually ends up just building and building and building until it finally explodes. And not only does it affect you, it affects other people in the church. So you can exhibit to your kids how to work through conflict, how to work through things that come up. You can exhibit forgiveness with people when they do hurt you. I just read a really good book. I don't know who the author is. This was just recommended to me by another pastor's wife who is a friend, and it's called A Tale of Three Kings. It really brought up a lot of really good points. It talked a lot about how David had many spears thrown at him by Saul throughout his life. Many, many times. Saul attacked him. Saul threw spears at him. Instead of David picking up the spear and throwing back, he dodged them. That's all he did. He dodged them. And then when it was apparent that King Saul was out to kill him, he fled then. But it's just talking about how we all have a little bit of King Saul in us. And we all, when we're hurt, we want to hurt that person in return. But it was talking about how David did not do that. Even when Absalom took over and rebelled and took over his kingdom, and Absalom couldn't just leave alone. Absalom had to take David's followers. He had to turn David's followers' hearts from David to himself, because people that are rebellious and people that cause conflict can never leave alone. They always have to have followers, because it is a scary thing leaving alone. It is scary starting a church plant by yourself with just your family. It's scary. And it's a lot of hard work. And most people don't want to do that. So what do? They try to take someone else's followers. And that's exactly what Absalom did. But even in that, David wept. David wept over Absalom taking over, and he said, my son, when he died. He loved Absalom, and he didn't turn into King Saul in return towards Absalom, even when Absalom was taking over his kingdom. So it just had a lot of good points. I always thought, I was talking to my husband about this, I always thought that David kind of was a failure when it came to when Absalom was trying to take over the kingdom, because he did nothing. But I think now, after reading this book, it gave me a different perspective. Possibly he knew that he had a little bit of King Saul in him, and he didn't want to be that way. Remember, David was a man after God's own heart. So obviously he messed up. There was the time when he had the affair and killed the husband and all that. He had sinned just like the rest of us. But I do believe his heart truly wanted to serve the Lord and love the Lord. And after reading this book, it kind of changed my perspective. Maybe it wasn't that he was a failure when it came to Absalom taking over the kingdom. Maybe he just didn't want to be like Saul was with him. So it was a nice little book, and it just had a lot of good concepts in there about not returning evil for evil. There were so many personalities at camp, but we had to coexist in the same room. We had to learn to put up with the annoying habits of others. Coughing really drives me crazy. And there was a little girl in the same room that was coughing. In fact, I texted one of my friends, Amanda, I'm like, the little girl is coughing. It won't stop. But you have to learn to just keep your mouth shut. And we have annoying habits as well. I know I have annoying habits. Sometimes I watch myself on this show just so I can get over my annoying habits when I'm speaking, because I know we all have them. And it teaches us to show grace to other people. Even when you want to say, can you please stop coughing, to the little girl that's keeping you up at night because she's coughing, it teaches you grace. Maybe she has a really bad cold and she can't help the coughing. Maybe she just got over pneumonia. Who knows? But it teaches you to show compassion and kindness when that kind of stuff is going on. I have so many more notes. I don't even know if I'm going to get through them all. I'm going long. Exhibiting loyalness, the way that you respond to other people. When you're there at the camp, you're on a team, and you strive for team unity and team spirit, which can also apply to things that we go through in life and with your church. God loves it when a church is unified. He loves it when there's no discord going on. He loves it when everyone's on the same page and working towards the same goal. And there's a sense of loyalness that being on a team teaches you. You're going to bond with your teammates. You're going to be working towards the same goal of winning the game, right? And then when you're in a church, it could be applied to winning souls, doing great things for the Lord. It teaches you different things like that. So I think more is caught and taught when it comes to even being a loyal person. Are you loyal to your friends? Are you loyal to your family? Are you loyal towards those in your church? And then also attitude is a big thing that is caught more than taught. Kids want your approval, and they often mimic what you do. And like I said, I can tell a lot of times the attitude towards people in their kids. And also I can see a lot of times in kids, they start exhibiting the same attitude towards authority that their parents exhibit towards authority. And there are some movements, I think, some different things that do exhibit and breed resentment towards authority. And I often see that exhibited. Attitude towards the rules. Are you someone who you have to break every rule? You have to break every speeding law. You have to break every traffic law. Your kids pick up on that. Attitudes towards the choice of activities, even at the camp. If you're whining about it, it's more likely the kids are going to whine about it. Attitudes when you win a game, attitudes when you lose a game. You can be a good loser or a bad loser as well. And Lana was complaining to me because there was a girl, we had played American Eagle, and that's a game where they call off numbers and everyone runs out and they get the ball. You can knock the ball out, you can grab the ball, different things like that. Our girls weren't very competitive, so it didn't really get the point where they were grabbing balls and knocking balls out of each other's hands. But we lost just by a little bit in the first round. And one of the girls from the other team, and this just offended Lana so much, she went up to Lana and she said, "Sorry for your loss." Just real snotty like that, moving her head, "Sorry for your loss." And Lana's like, can you believe she said that to me? And I was like, well, Lana, I said, did it feel good when that girl did that to you? And she said, well, no. And I said, then don't do it to her. Okay, don't treat someone. If it does not make you feel good, don't treat someone else like that. So then it was funny because the next game we ended up winning. And Lana said she went up to the girl and she was just like, probably shouldn't have said that so early, should you? And I was like, Lana, did you not just hear what I said? I said, you didn't need to be snotty in return. So, that whole thing right there was a good life lesson. But if Lana would have seen me being all snotty towards the counselors of the other team, then she would have I wasn't, but she would have picked up on that, and so it's up to us to exhibit good traits when we lose, good traits when we win, and not gloat about it when we win. Relish in the victory, but not gloat about it, if that makes sense. How about your attitude when you're tired or when you're hungry, or attitude when it's rough? I really have to watch what comes out of my mouth when I am exhausted, and I do get exhausted at camp, because I don't want to come across as a whiner or a complainer, and I don't want that attitude to catch on to the girls, because whatever I do, they're going to exhibit. So I have to really mind over matter when it comes to that. And then character traits, even when it came to the Bible memory. So we had a time every day where we had Bible memory, and I could see even different character traits coming out in this. I had girls that took that time to lay their head down on the table and pout because they just didn't feel like doing it. They didn't feel like doing this activity. Then I had other girls that were like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to, and they worked really hard at learning those verses, because whatever verses they did earned points for the team. I saw the competitiveness coming out in this. I saw hardworking, but not necessarily super smart kids. It was really tough for them to learn those verses. And all we did this year, usually they cherry pick verses out of the Bible, all different places. But this year, all they did was Romans 3 and Romans 4. So some of those verses were pretty tough. And for some of the girls that maybe weren't very fluent readers, it took a little bit more time and it took a little bit more effort. But I really was impressed by all the kids that I saw buckling down and just putting the hard work into learning those verses. So that really encouraged me. And just encouragement goes a long way. When you see your kids doing things, encourage them, tell them, you're doing a great job. That was awesome. You're doing amazing. And you'll just see kids kind of perk up and see a light come on in their eyes when they get encouragement. More is caught than taught when it comes to self-confidence. How are you when it comes to how you feel about yourself, how you feel about your relationship with the Lord, how you feel, how secure are you in your marriage? That all is definitely caught by your kids. I want to raise self-confident boys so they'll be able to work hard. They'll be able to pursue and get a good woman, and they'll be able to raise good children, and they'll be secure in what they're doing. They'll know that I stay in church, this is going to work. If I stay in church, if I focus on the Lord, I'm going to have a good marriage. If I put in the time, I'm going to have a good marriage. If I love my wife the way that Christ loved the church, I'm going to have a good marriage. They're confident in knowing that those methods work. I want to raise self-confident girls so that, number one, they won't go for the punk loser that comes for them, that they won't marry someone who treats them like a possession or like property, but they'll marry someone who treats them right. They'll marry someone who, loves them like Christ loved the church. They'll marry someone who's not abusive. They'll marry someone who knows their self-worth. That my girls will know their self-worth, that they'll realize how much the Lord loves them and how special they are, that they'll know how to set boundaries with people, and they'll scare off the loser who doesn't want to win them the right way. And nowadays it's almost looked at as being firm with people and being honest with people and being open with people is a bad thing. No, that's a good thing. And I want my girls to realize that they can set boundaries with people if they cross a line. If I'm always complaining about myself, then they're going to catch that. If I'm always down on myself, then they're going to catch that. Teaching hard work and goals to my girls is something that helps confidence. Music lessons, playing in church, singing in church, that helps self-confidence. And then working hard at school also teaches self-confidence. There's a lot of different things that you can do to teach your girls self-confidence. Self-confidence is different than being arrogant or prideful. Self-confidence is being comfortable in who you are. It's being comfortable in your physical appearance that you can't change. It's being comfortable with the personality God gave you. I don't want my girls ever marrying someone who tries to force them to be something that they're not. I am not a feminist. I am not for all of this rah, 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 women can do anything men can do type mentality, because we can't do everything that men can do. However, the Bible says that we are the weaker vessel, and I accept that. Women are the weaker vessel. My husband is physically stronger than me. My husband is more logical than me and can make better decisions than I can when it comes to a lot of things. My husband is stronger than me. He's faster than me. He can do repairs around the house that I can't do. He can think in ways that I can't think. However, he treats me really well. He recognizes that I bring things to the marriage that he can't bring. I bring unique perspectives to different situations. I have good intuition with people. I can see things often that he overlooks when it comes to people. And so the longer we've been married, the more he trusts my discernment and the more he relies on advice or different things that I give. Does that mean that I just, ram it down his throat when he's not willing to listen? No, because I do believe in biblical roles in marriage. However, I do not believe in a man using authority to browbeat his wife. I do not believe in a man, being harsh with his wife. I do not believe in a man just beating his chest and screaming, I am the authority. If you want that and you're attracted to that, by all means, go listen to Bill Gothard's stuff. Go join that and you'll be really happy and comfortable in that little cult. But as far as real life and biblical principles, there are different things outlined for men and there are different things outlined for women. And I want to teach my girls what their role is and the type of man that they need to go for and the type of man that they need to avoid. And yes, having self-confidence is much different than being arrogant and proud. All of these things, while not an exhaustive list, are things that are caught by your kids more than taught. You model every day what your kids will pick up on. They will have your character traits. So much of what goes on in the home is shown once your kid reaches the teen years and even some in the younger years. Now, obviously, all younger kids are a work in progress. Your kids are going to embarrass you on a regular basis. It doesn't mean that that's exactly what's going on in the home all the time. Kids are just kids. They do stupid things. Show them some grace. It'll be fine. Mm-hmm. The fruit is displayed for everyone to see as they get older, though. Character traits, character flaws, all of the good, the bad, and the ugly comes out. How they relate to others comes out. Their work ethic and character and what makes them comes out as they grow up. And so much is dependent on the home life. So let's make it our mission to constantly work on ourselves so that we can be the best that we can be. Definitely not perfect, perfectly imperfect, in fact. Definitely not perfect, but a work in progress. None of us have arrived, but all of us can develop character. What character do you want your kids to have? Whatever it is, you become that. If you want to have hardworking kids, you be a hard worker. If you want to have smart kids, you get smarter. You research things. You learn things every day. If you want to have compassionate kids, you be compassionate. If you want to have kind kids, you be kind. If you want to have loyal kids, you be loyal. If you want to have determined kids, you be determined. If you want to have kids that don't quit, you don't be a quitter. If you want to have kids that are close to God, then you be close to God. There's so many things that you can work on in your life that you want to be exhibited in your kid's life. So Ron is so funny. He said, I once thought that I had good style choices. I picked out the outfits for our kids and my wife thanked my efforts. I was so convinced I had her do a Facebook poll seeing if the outfit matched. I was sure people would side with me. I was 100% in favor of her saying it was a bad outfit match. I now 100% defer to her matching choices and realize I truly don't have that ability. That's a good sign that you don't have that ability. Most men don't have that ability. In fact, my husband came up to me right before church started yesterday, and he was wearing this suit. And he asked me, it's sitting over there on the chair right now, actually. It was a gray suit, and he had like these pinstripe pants on or something. And he was like, does this clash? And I just looked at it and said, yes. And he went and he changed his suit coat. So yeah, men learn that oftentimes their wives are better judges of this. So that's a smart man right there. That'll defer to his wife's choices when it comes to outfits. So, well, I hope all of you had a great week. And I don't know what's going on next Monday. My kids, 3 of my kids are flying to Ireland with Sheen, our friend who has been here for a week and a half, I think, a week and a half. And they're flying back with him next Monday. So I don't know if I'm going to be going with to drop them off at the airport. So if I'll need to do it on Sunday, I don't know if I'll be here. I don't know what's going on yet. So we'll see. It might be a pre-recorded one, or I just might go live on Sunday afternoon again. So we'll see what happens. But anyways, I hope you all have a great week. If you have any topic suggestions, leave them down below. I scrambled to come up with this one, and I decided like literally an hour before I went live, wrote out the outline and all of that, about an hour, hour and a half before I went live. So I'm always looking for topic discussions. I only like to discuss things that I have experience in. If it comes to a much deeper topic, I would love to have a guest on, whether that comes to the darker topics like abuse, whether that comes to, maybe darker topics like addictions, different things like that, and people that have gained victory over that. I would love to discuss those, but I have no experience in those. So I would rather have a guest on that is experienced in those. So if you know of any, go ahead and recommend them to me. I am going to be trying to get some guests on in the next couple of weeks. It's just life is so busy in summer. So it's kind of hit and miss. So anyways, I hope you all have a great week, and we will see you next week sometime.